So, what am I taking away from LEAD and being in the program as an academic librarian? I would say the most surprising takeaway for me thus far has been collaborating with my public librarian colleagues. I think one of the special things about this program isn't about leadership in the libraries per se, but about leadership writ large. These are skills that I feel like I could take with me if I continue in the libraries or if I move outside of the libraries. I'm not going to move outside of the libraries because I think this is the best job one could possibly have. But I do feel like the leadership training I'm getting out of this has wide application. When it comes to collaborating with my public librarian colleagues, I think it's fair to say academic librarians, academics writ large, tend to not really grasp the administrative pressures that are constantly bearing down on a library or a department. In fact, when I was in the English department, most faculty didn't realize this administrative layer exists until they become a chair, right? I didn't even know the differences between the unions until I started working in a library. Those things just sort of exist out there in the university. And my focus tends to be research, in many cases, service. So I'm not necessarily thinking about those larger institutional, provincial, national, international pressures that the organization might be facing. What I love about working with my public librarian colleagues is they seem much more attuned and aware of those pressures. So for example, during the COVID epidemic, I was working from home. It was a big, serious challenge to think about coming back to campus. When they told us students were coming back to campus, I personally was scared. And I told my public librarian colleagues this, and they were like, "You stayed home?" We were in the public this entire time, and it just sort of hit me, oh my goodness. Because they're much more attuned to the pressures that the mayor or the city or the government might have or might be thinking about when it comes to funding those public libraries. And I suppose my epiphany here was we face those same challenges. We just don't know that they exist necessarily, or not all of us know that they exist necessarily. And LEAD has been a place that has really gotten me to think about those wider, larger issues that organizations face and how I can start positioning myself, and spoiler alert, it's through Mintzberg, right? How I position myself in the organization, thinking about those organizational issues for the success of the libraries and for the success of my colleagues and the people who report to me, and getting them to think about and incorporate those larger organizational desires into our everyday work. One brief example of that, and then I'll stop talking, is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. This is a huge focus of our university right now. Our university president, President Hull, is starting a UN training center downtown in Victoria. And we call these SDGs for short. Everything that the university is doing administratively is being read through these SDGs. This isn't something regular faculty are really thinking about right now, or university librarians are thinking about. Or if we do, it's in the abstract. So one of the things I've really done to implement the teachings that I've learned at LEAD is to have those folks who report to me and my colleagues to start thinking about what aspects of our work aligns with those SDGs. If we're developing a workshop in the Digital Scholarship Commons, what specific SDGs are the students applying in doing that work? So this is just one little example of something that I never would have thought about before LEAD. But now that I've had this experience and been able to work with colleagues from across organizations, has really given me a a sense of how that bigger picture works, or in this particular case, a worldly view that I didn't have before. So for me, that's my biggest takeaway from LEAD thus far. I still have 5 or 6 months to go, so who knows what happens next.